I've been playing the piano for 15 years, and honestly, it is such a fulfilling and rewarding journey. And you clicked on this video because you've just started learning the piano. And I want to give you some really valuable pieces of advice that if you follow these, honestly, it's going to set you up for such a long and rewarding journey with the piano. The first piece of advice is to understand the full power and potential of the piano. So I started learning the piano at about aged 12. And it wasn't until I was about 18 or 19 that I discovered the true potential of the piano, right? What do I mean by this? What is the full potential and the power of the piano? Well, the piano is actually just the kind of big wooden contraption that's in the lounge or wherever it is in your house, right? That's the piano. Now, the part of the piano that you actually interact with and play is the keyboard. And so what you're really doing is unlocking the keyboard. Now, the reason why I wanted to share this with you is because the keyboard itself is a part of so many other different types of instruments. It's a part of the organ, it's a part of the clavinet, it's a part of the synthesizer, right? So there are all of these different types of keyboards. So what I'm saying here is that when you learn to play the piano, you're actually gaining a technical facility over the keyboard. You're unlocking the keyboard itself, which means that you can also start to play those other kinds of instruments. You can start to play synthesizers, you can start to play organs and electric pianos and this, that, and the other. It's really important that you understand this so that you can see the full scope of what the keyboard is and what you're actually learning, because when you understand the potential of something, it will motivate and inspire you to really go all in and actually dedicate yourself to practicing this instrument and unlocking the keyboard. Now, I have good news for you. I've actually made an entire 9-module course called Unlock the Keyboard, and it's completely free. And I made this because I wanted to help you actually unlock the keyboard, understand the potential of this instrument, and genuinely work towards, this very fulfilling life as a creative musician with the keyboard. If you want to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description, and I'll see you over there. Now, there is another type of keyboard called the MIDI keyboard. Maybe you've heard of this, maybe you haven't. So the MIDI keyboard is a type of keyboard that you actually plug into your computer, and what it allows you to do is it allows you to play these digital instruments on a software called a DAW. Okay, so you may have heard of GarageBand or Logic Pro or Ableton, right? So these are DAWs, right? And on these softwares, you can compose music, you can produce music, you can record music, and you can mix music and master music, right? And so these DAWs, these DAW softwares, they are kind of like instruments in their own right. And with the MIDI keyboard, you can actually access this infinite library of sounds. That's how I describe it, right? Because you can literally select all of these different digital instruments with the MIDI keyboard. You can play, different instruments from across the world with the keyboard, right? You can play the instruments of the orchestra with the keyboard, right? You can see how powerful this is, right? And so the keyboard is one of the most powerful instruments when it actually comes to composing music and producing music. And it's really great for any genre of music, right? Whether you want to compose orchestral fantasy music, you can do that on the keyboard. If you want to make lo-fi beats and produce those kind of beats, you can do that with the keyboard. The second piece of advice I have for you is to focus on learning the basics and practicing the basics. So I've structured the whole course, Unlock the Keyboard, around this idea that if you do the basics, you will get 90% of the results. And I really do believe this is the case. When it comes to playing the piano, there's like a two-sided coin. I describe it as a two-sided coin, right? So on one side of the coin, you've got this very kind of creative, artistic, musical side, right? This fun, free-flowing, the magical side of music, the side of music that really moves people, reaches into people's hearts, makes people dance, right? And then the other side of the coin is the purely mechanical and technical side of music, of the instrument, right? The physical side. Now, this is actually very important because you kind of need both sides to become a good musician, in my opinion. You need to have a good technical mastery over the instrument, and you also need to know how to apply those technical skills that you're practicing in a very musical way so that it actually connects with people and you can tell a better story with music. At the start, I think honestly your focus should be on actually gaining that technical, physical mastery over the instrument, right? And so what this means is that you need to learn what the basics are on the keyboard, on the piano, because if you understand what the basics are and you practice them regularly, what's going to happen is you're going to develop muscle memory. Okay, so muscle memory is when your kind of fingers and hands understand how to position themselves and how to shape themselves on the keyboard and on the piano, right? So learn what the basics are, right? They are kind of the basic technical things on the piano. If you learn what they are and practice them, your hands and fingers are going to know what they are, right? If that makes sense. They're just going to act on their own accord if you do enough repetitions and practice these basics enough. Now, I cover this all in the full course, so you can check out the course, and there are exercises in there to actually get you practicing these basics. I'll just tell you up front now that the main basics you need to learn and focus on are finger dexterity, so practicing finger exercises. Honestly, this is like the number one basic, because every note that you play on the piano is with the fingers. So if you unlock the fingers and build that finger dexterity, you will be able to express your ideas, okay? Regardless of how simple or how complicated the music you're playing actually is, right? If you have finger dexterity, you can really dig in there and actually express something from the heart, okay? And then you have scales. Scales are absolutely critical, okay? So learn all of your major scales on the keyboard, on the piano. Then you have triads, right? So triads are kind of like the basic chord, right? When it comes to music, we use chords and we use chord progressions, but the more advanced chords that you will eventually want to play are all constructed and understood with the triad, okay? So learn all of the triads, and then you have arpeggios. So arpeggios is a kind of pattern that you can apply to chords on the keyboard to create a sense of movement. Again, I cover this all in the course, so you can check out the course and learn the exercises that you actually need to practice to unlock these basics. The third piece of advice I have for you is to create, to engage in the creative process. So my first point illustrated the fact that the keyboard is extremely powerful, and it's actually one of the best instruments that we have when it comes to the creative process, right? Now, what is the creative process? The creative process is a three-step process in my understanding of it, which starts with improvisation, and then it progresses to composition, and then it progresses to either performance or production. The piano and the keyboard is just great for all of these things, right? I explained that we have DAWs and the MIDI keyboard, right? The DAW is an incredible software for composing and producing music, okay? And the piano itself is a fantastic launch pad for just like kind of understanding how chords relate to each other and coming up with chord progressions and kind of composing your own music, right? So that is to say that I really do encourage you to engage in the creative process on the piano and on the keyboard and to compose your own music. There are honestly so many reasons why I encourage everyone to kind of create their own stuff on the piano and on the keyboard. But one of the reasons is that it's a way to actually apply what you learn, right? Because when you practice the piano, you're practicing all of these technical things and all of these musical things, right? The two-sided coin that I explained. You're learning new things, you're acquiring new knowledge and new technical skills. When you have a creative outlet, what's happening is you're able to actually apply those new things that you've been learning and practicing. And so you're going to integrate it at a faster pace, right? It's kind of like inputs and outputs, right? You take in all of these inputs, you learn all of these new things on the piano, and then you apply it to a piece of music that you're writing or composing. And this creates a very effective cycle, and it's going to allow you to actually improve at a much quicker rate. Also, you're going to be more inspired and motivated, because when you start coming up with your own music and when you start really connecting with the music that you're composing and writing on the piano and on the keyboard, it just creates this magical feeling. You really start to develop a relationship with the piano, and that's what I want for you. I want you to have this kind of relationship with the piano, because that's what it is. And it's so good to have this kind of relationship because you can just like sit down at any time and the piano is always going to listen to you. It's always going to be there for you. It's honestly like a kind of like a best friend that's always going to listen to you, and it's going to give you advice. It's going to give you it's going to tell you you know, it's all good, bro, just chill, like whatever you're going through right now, it's okay. And the music that you're kind of improvising and composing is going to reflect that to you, or it's going to reflect your sadness, or it's going to reflect your excitement, or whatever, right? This is the creative process. You're using your emotions inside to kind of create your own stuff on the piano. And yeah, I don't know, I kind of went on a tangent there. Yeah, the piano can be your best friend. Honestly, it's such a loyal companion. It's always going to be there, and it's never going to betray you. And the fourth and final piece of advice I have for you is to practice consistently. At the end of the day, this is actually the only thing that matters, and I'm fully serious about that, because if you don't practice consistently, you're not going to improve, and it's as simple as that. And although that might sound simple, honestly, I say this to all of my students, and like only about 20% of them practice consistently. And honestly, I explain it in the most simple terms. I say, literally just practice these things, these exercises that I'm showing you right now, and do that for like 20 minutes a day, and you're going to get the results. But guess what they don't do? They don't practice. And it only has to be like 20 minutes a day, which isn't that much. Surely you can find 20 minutes. We all have 20 minutes. I just watched a 20-minute YouTube video before I was recording this, right? That's an extra 20 minutes of piano practice that I left on the table. So it's important to understand that this is actually how you improve. And I know this sounds stupidly obvious, but it's worth just constantly reiterating. You have to practice, okay? Just do the work, even if it's boring, even if you hate it. If you're serious about learning this instrument, you just have to sit there at the piano, at the keyboard, and run the scales, run the finger exercises. Even if it's mind-numbingly boring, just do it. It's only 20 minutes, okay? Trust me. Trust me, I didn't practice back in the day when I started learning the piano, and I wish I did, because music is such an important part of my life now, and if I had practiced back then, my skills would be even better now, okay? Trust me, just practice. Just freaking practice. Okay, that's about everything that I had to share with you in this video. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you've got a better idea and a better understanding of what you're in for when it comes to learning the piano and practicing the piano and what you need to do. Again, the link to the free online course is below. Don't forget to vibe and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.